CPA firm. Thank you, recording. So again, Kevin Mokus, Minneapolis, working in the Central Region. And so I guess part of the purpose of today, we just want to give people an overview of BDO, and really our goal here is really to get everybody engaged and getting value out of the program, every person. So part of the message, we'll do a little bit of a portal demo at the back end, just trying to encourage everybody to actually set up your profiles. We'd like all, whatever, 200 people to have their profiles set up so everybody can get like Monday and Thursday emails where the content related to what you're involved in will come to you, and you can choose to ignore it or click on it or whatever, but CP and training and things like that. So I'm going to maybe have a do a Steph. Steph, you want to do this?
Steph Luke. I also work on the Alliance team. I work with our business resource network firm. So we're excited to have 4 of your affiliates joining the program. That would be Savvy, Workforce, Payroll, and Bring House Marketing. Yes. Did I pass the test? Yeah. Well, great. So I live in Kansas and also cover the Central Region. So we're very excited to be here and glad to have you.
Thanks, Steph. So again, a little bit looking at the agenda for today, an overview of BDO, a little bit about the Alliance program, how it works, really a little bit about how you, your firm, and your clients can benefit, and then plugging into the BDO Alliance program, and then a little Q&A, and then on the back end, we'll just jump on the portal for a little bit and do a little bit of a demonstration on that. So again, this is Steph and I. Again, my background a little bit, I was managed partner of a firm in Minneapolis. We joined the Alliance back in 2006, and so kind of lived it, thought it was a great thing. We ended up, we joined BDO, because BDO wasn't in Minneapolis. And then after a couple of years, I joined the BDO Alliance firm. So since 15, I've been in the Alliance program, working with about 50 firms in the Central Region. A little bit about BDO. Since 1963, they've really used the BDO acronym for Binder, Dijker, Ott. It's an international network. We're the 5th largest global network. So you may know this, but the big 4 are probably 8 or 10 times bigger than we are, and they're significantly bigger. So 5, 6, and 7 is in the U.S. RSM is number 5. We're number 6, and Grant Thornton's number 7. But we're about 3 billion. The big 4 are like 10 times as big as we are. But we're kind of set up the same way as the big 4 in that the BDO USA is a separate legal entity from like 70 different BDO Canada, BDO China, all those things. So that's the same way the big 4 is generally organized. So again, on the right side, focusing on client needs, communications, commitment, people, value. I think it's a good fit for our Alliance firms because we're more small to middle market than the big 4s, kind of chasing the 3Ms and a lot bigger than we are. So I think it helps collaborate, work together as a result of our size. Again, BDO USA, assurance, tax, financial advisory, kind of a typical CPA firm, just a $3 billion revenue firm, focusing on middle market, small middle market, one of the 6 largest firms in the country. Core values since 2012. Wayne Burstrom, our CEO, who's out of South Africa, we kind of spent a lot of time with core values. I think they've done a really good job of having 70 offices that are kind of all on the same page. In terms of being able to share information, and it seems like the echo's coming and going. It seems like it's going now. Okay.
Yeah.
So again, spend quite a bit of time on the core values, core purpose, helping people thrive every day, firm strategies, client centricity, but ESG, digital transformation, strength of culture, exceptional people experience. And so I will say that for BDO, our Alliance program is a huge deal. It's kind of like our golden nugget. So I think when you need help, I think people kind of really are pretty responsive from the BDO perspective. So really encourage you to leverage BDO and having a global firm as a part of it's I think a big advantage. It didn't work here.
Yeah, I got Mark working.
Okay. I don't know if we stand behind the computer out.
I think it's just catching up the background is why that's happening. I think we remove the background, it'll. How do we do that? This is somebody else.
But I get the screen as someone on the.
Oh, gotcha. Got it. Okay. Yeah, maybe not.
Just click back in here. A little bit about BDO. Again, we're in the red in the middle there in the part of the Americas, and then the BDO Alliance is part of BDO USA, and then it's comprised of about 260 CPA firms, like MBE, the CPA firm, and then we've got our business resource network firms, BRN firms, a lot of times, a lot of acronyms at BDO, and they're comprised of business service firms and vendor firms and stuff. We'll go into a little bit more detail on that. A little bit about the revenue. So I think it's, the slide shows about 14 billion, probably closer to 15 right now. So that 14 billion, BDO USA is about 3 billion of that. The alliance firms are close. The slide might say 4, but I think it's closer to 5 billion now. So the alliance firms collectively are bigger than BDO. And they include that in that 14 billion number. So they kind of love our line. The global people like to throw that in there because it makes us look a lot larger. BDO International, you can see that the percentages a little bit heavily weighted assurance versus tax and advisory. Personnel in 160 plus countries, 1,700 offices. BDO USA, again, we did go over 3 billion in revenue. And you can see tax, we're about like 39% tax, so higher percentage of tax. Advisory is 18%. We really want to get that to be like a third over the next 3 to 5 years. So advisory is trying to be the fastest growing. I think we are, but they want to grow that quicker. And assurance, they want to keep growing it, but I think the advisory tax is probably going to end up being a third. But we over 800 principals. We may have known we end up doing an ESOP transaction. So we came up ESOP back about 1.5 years ago, like September 1st of 2023. So we say all of our employees are in the U.S. are really part of that. We're in 75 offices. This shows 4.2 billion for alliance firm. I think it's really closer to 5 billion today. It's really growing quickly, our alliance firms, because of MBE growing and stuff. So CPA firms are like 64%, BRN firms 36%, total firms over 400. So it really gives us more of a global footprint across the country. This slide just a little bit about what BDO USA is and what it isn't. It's independent, so your firms are completely independent of us. We can give you advice and you can ignore it completely. You don't have to do anything that BDO does, but it's kind of like a smorgasbord of things that you can kind of choose to be a part of. And again, I think part of our strategy with BDO is really having all 200 people getting value out of it. We're very much growth oriented. Back when we joined BDO, it was about a $600 million firm, and now it's $3 billion. So it's growing faster than any other firm in the U.S., including the big four. Cooperative. We signed an agreement when you joined with you. It's a 3-year agreement that we can't take your clients or your people and vice versa. Sometimes there's things though that happen in the marketplace. Like we've got 2 strong offices in Wisconsin. So we don't want you to take BDO people and vice versa. But sometimes stuff comes up where you might be at a ACG meeting and you get somebody and you realize, oh, they're popular tax returns at BDO. I wouldn't walk away from that kind of stuff. Like I would talk to me. Because usually if the client's going to leave, we'd much rather lose it to an alliance firm than somebody else. So it isn't, it's meant to kind of protect both parties, but things do pop up in the marketplace, both ways. And so I think it's important to talk about, but very cooperative. And that agreement doesn't apply between like MBE and other alliance firms. So technically you can take their clients or people, but we really kind of encourage everybody to be kind of part of one family and kind of work together. So we really don't run into a lot of poaching of alliance firms or BRN firms among each other. I mean, sometimes stuff happens, you talk through it and you work it out. Yes.
Can you help me understand? I'm a little confused with the difference between alliance and BRN. Is there
Yeah. Thanks. Good question. Great question. So the earlier slide, we got BDO USA, and then the alliance program is part of BDO USA, just kind of a division. And that's split up between the BRNs, the Business Resource Network, with STEP help leads, and the CPA firms. And so both of those are part of the BDO Alliance program, but there's just, basically I'd say this, the CPA firms, we have about 260 firms like MBE that range from like 1 million to 200 million in size, a pretty big range. I mean, there's a lot more, there's probably 40 or 50 that are under 3 million. Whereas the BRNs, I think there's 165 BRN firms. The BRN firms grown faster than the CPA firms, I think, the last 5 years. I think it's also, really gotten, I think, stronger because there's so much more technology and change and things like that, so much more of an advisory focus. And so I think the BRN program is, I think there's slides and they're calling it our secret sauce. I mean, you guys have 5 of them now. So it's really been a great program because nobody else has it. I mean, maybe the big 4 have it within their, because they're so big, but like RSM doesn't have it, so it's kind of a separate toolbox and all fully vetted firms, just like the CPA side. So I think it raises the bar in terms of if you want to leverage or find somebody that you can utilize, which is advantage for your 5 BRNs, like practice ERP and stuff, because you're vetted and there should be more of a confidence level that it's not just some business card that you got from a Chamber of Commerce meeting. It's just a little bit more of a closer knit family. So I don't know if that answered.
So what you're saying is like MBE is part of the Alliance,
Yep.
but Brand House, for example, is in DRN.
Yeah, which is all part of the Alliance. Yeah.
Well, the Alliance is like the overarching thing.
Okay, so.
Within that, we've got some CPA firms and then our business resource network, which are the technology providers, the companies that help your clients. So
Okay,
Alliance
Like
is
quick
like the
being
overarching. Yes, correct.
part of DRN.
So it's kind of confusing, and I think that's where I think Chuck's harder in some respects because the CPA firms are pretty similar, whereas BRN firms are kind of all over the different things, and so you have to, I think, coming in, making sure they're a good fit and all those things. They're a little bit more unique, but I think the BRN program's done a good job of like splitting them up into different categories and grouping them so who are maybe there's some crossovers and different things and stuff, but it's a pretty unique program, and it's been great for the BDO. Again, national program with international access. I mean, I do think one big benefit for BDO, and I'm part of BDO, so maybe I'm drinking the Kool-Aid or biased or whatever, but we always hear from our, that we're stronger than like Grant Thornton or RSM internationally. I mean, I think that's true because that's what I keep being told, but yeah, so I mean, I think like international stuff is just, there's so much like client stuff. Like we have so many, I work in like upstate New York with firms and they do quite a bit of stuff with Canada, BDO Canada. And that part of it works really good, I think. I mean, in terms of you have people boots on the ground in the US, your client goes to China and they need help. It worked, they have somebody in the US that helps quarterback that has worked in China that can work together. So a lot of times I'll get calls and I'm connecting somebody, like just last night, I connected one of our Alliance firms that had needs in the UK, and I connected our leader, got back to him last night, connected him with the counterpart in the UK and stuff. So the international access, I think, is kind of a big deal. I mean, it doesn't probably pop up every day, but I think that's good. And so connected. So what it isn't, you're not merging into BDO. It's not a network. We don't think we're siloed. We don't think we're stagnant. It's not just a library. I mean, there's things that are kind of like a library where you can get toolkits and things like that. So I wouldn't just create stuff by yourself without checking with us first. And the portal's pretty self-service, but there's lots of people like better than Kevin Moquist that can, like Rhonda, that can help find stuff too. I mean, but you can always reach out to me. So they say it's not just a library and guaranteed results. I mean, the other thing with guaranteed results, I would say is, again, we're super excited in the program, but we really want all of your 200 people to get connected and get value out of it. The phone doesn't just ring off the hook with all kinds of referrals and things like that. And I'm speaking to the choir, you guys understand that as an entrepreneurial firm, but you kind of need to get involved. And so, we like to kind of think we guarantee, we're set up to guarantee, but it really takes, we don't want just like your 5 top leaders to plug into this. We want all 200 people to plug in and get value out of it. Training, I mean, having the benefits of a national training. Now, BDO isn't like a CP company, but everything they do for training for the $3 billion is kind of all available to you. And probably 99% of the time it's free. When I say it's free, you're already paying for it kind of in your membership. So to me, it makes sense that everybody take advantage of getting maybe 20, 25 credits of stuff that's available to you. And that way, the firm can step back and go, well, we're paying a lot of money for this. I mean, that might be, if you take 200 times 25 CP credits times $30 an hour, that might be $90,000. That might pay for the big part of it. So again, I'm not just trying to get you to break even, but I think that's how you want to get the value out of it. This slide on the red shows the CPA firms, I think we're up to about closer to 260 right now. And the BRN firms are probably 160. But good growth. I mean, I think the thing that's a little deceiving is that I think the growth is more than that really, because like when we joined the Alliance, we were like firm number 149 in 2006, our firm MTK in Minneapolis. But I think the average firm might have been 4 million. Now it's like 15 million. So the firms are getting bigger, besides the number of firms. So I don't want to cover the size.
So we've talked a little bit about the BRN, again, that's short for Business Resource Network. Basically, it allows you to have additional resources for your firm and your clients. So MBE does a lot of things, but you still don't do everything for your clients. So if your client has a need that's outside of what you can do internally, we have a lot of resources within our Business Resource Network that can help them. So Quick Fee was an example that was given there in our program, but we also have a company called ABC Omega that can help all businesses with their receivables. And so that's just one example. As Kevin mentioned, they're all vetted, like our CPA firms are when they join, they have to go through an application and checking process to make sure that they're good companies to have in the program. Some of them can, will white label their services, so it still looks like it's MBE to your clients. Some of them, maybe you are just working with that client with them together.
It's another. So we also have a lot of technology providers.
Audio. We do have. If you stand in the podium,
Stand behind your.
if you're there, I'll be able to see.
Okay. It's your turn.
I'm not sure it makes sense to keep talking until this echo gets.
I think the echo is from
Yeah.
Mark. I think it's echoing because of Mark has there's two people with their mics on.
Should be good now. Is it still echoing? Yeah. Oh, no, I thought that was.
Mute this here.
Kevin and Mark's are both giving audio from the same room. So if you mute Mark Ziegler's, it should fix the issue.
How do I do that?
Just on the laptop.
Mark.
All right, do we still have an echo?
Yes.
Yes.
Do we know what device Mark Ziegler is signed in from?
Is that better?
Holly, I think someone that's a host of the meeting will need to mute Mark because we can't. There, now Mark's muted.
Yay, no more.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Oh, we need to close that panel now.
Oh, so.
Okay. All right. So, is there another BRN slide? Nope. Okay, on the slide will take over.
We would get off from the firms and their specialty.
Correct, yes. So I think there may be a couple slides later on, but we have different categories of BRN. So some can help clients with cost savings. We have a new BRN called expense reduction analysts that will go in to a company to look at their spend for a month or two and then provide suggestions to them on how they would reduce that spending. So some that can help with that, some, we've got foreign exchange companies, merchant services, credit card platform called K-Rock that has traditionally lowered credit card processing fees. So as you're advising your clients, if you see, on their financial statements, certain lines are a lot higher, trending a lot higher, or there are ways that they can reduce that. And then, as I mentioned, a lot of the technology providers that we have. So we have a document called the BRN Matrix that lists all 160 with a little short little description beside them. That's a great resource. All the firms also have pages within our portal, so you can go to the marketplace and search if there's something in particular you're looking for. We have a BRN help desk that you can go in. My client asked, "Who is in need of this help? Do you have anything in the BRN that can help them with that?" Or you can, of course, reach out to them to that help. And if you have a BRN champion within your firm, there is Mr. Dan Allen, who can help you connect with our BRN. Because there are so many, 160, it's hard even for us to keep all of them, like Kevin mentioned. So it is,
You said they've all been fully vetted.
yes, yeah.
Good. Well, this slide just shows a multidimensional approach towards getting value. And so there's really organizational type things between practice management, recruiting, growth that I think the Alliance program bring a lot of value. Personally, with the training, CPE, benefits, networking, and then professional, there's the technical help desk. So it's really the same as what BDO uses in terms of you've got access to our help desk that will show on the portal. And like for tax, for example, and insurance is the same. The first 20 minutes you don't get charged. And so to me, to a certain degree, you may want to do a lot of research, figure out something, say, hey, I want to just bounce this off an expert that maybe they've got 300 people in R&D at BDO. We have 5, just to get in does this make sense type of thing. So on the tax side, I think over half our calls aren't charged because they're 20 minutes or less. And so now if it gets over 20 minutes and it's an hour, you get charged the full, they don't subtract 20 minutes, but you pay 65% of a standard rate. And the BDO rates are high, but I think it's a big value thing. If there's ever a problem, let me know. We want to make sure that you don't not use it because you got a bill that you felt like the value wasn't there or something. So again, I think there's a lot of these circles, a lot of different benefits to drive from that. 4 key resources areas, client service, access to the international network, deep technical expertise, staff development in terms of live training, the tools, consulting, firm operations, next gen technology, best in class innovation. I'm involved with Kathy Sauters on a practice innovation roundtable, which it's like every other month. But there's firms sharing. With the 260 firms, we have about 150 or 160 of the top 500 firms in the country. And so there's an ability not to just learn from BDO, but also these 160 firms, and they're sitting at a round table. So they have, sometimes Alliance firms are more nimble, can be a lot more nimble as you guys, I'm sure, are in terms of being able to do stuff. And so you've got a firm like Mercadian that might have a partner level person that they just focus on chief innovation, so they bring stuff that they might. So I know BDO's partnered with them on different types of things and stuff. And so it's just really a network that I think is a lot there to take advantage of in terms of firm growth. I think a lot of examples where I'll have an Alliance firm like in Ohio a couple of years ago. I like this example just because it was pretty impactful for them. They called me and said, we're in the final 4 of this huge proposal for us. It was like a $250,000 engagement. They said, we know the key decision makers, but we just found out today, proposals are due like Tuesday, that there's a transfer pricing element to this and we don't have it. Can you help us? And so I called up Barb Darris in our Minneapolis office, who's one of our national leaders. She talked to them, faxed down a bio, attached a $53,000 transfer pricing to tack onto the thing. Got a call the next Tuesday. This was Friday. They won. So I never traveled really with my boss, Michael Horwitz, but 2 years ago or less than 2 years ago, I went, we were recruiting a firm in Ohio. And so we were kind of traveling together, went to that firm, and they said, that's our best firm. The best client is like a $500,000 client today. And so again, sometimes maybe, and it's not that BDO is any smarter, it's just that they have probably 80 people that do transfer pricing. That's all they do. So you can bring in, I would say, a star type person as part of your team to go to market together. It doesn't happen all the time, but I think to just keep that in mind sometimes when you're maybe have an opportunity that maybe you need some assistance, that can work really well. This is a little bit on the tax resources. Again, the tax technical desk will kind of walk through that on the portal. There's a lot of stuff in the tax knowledge base that just rolls out of BDO every day, and it's searchable. I mean, if you can't find stuff, Andy Gibson's great, you know, so it's not like it's probably as searches as good as Google, but it's kind of there. And if you have trouble, you know, our team's there to help. International liaisons, like I mentioned last night, I got a call from Creative Planning, which is one of our larger CPA firms. One of their leaders called me and said they've got something going on in UK that's kind of a timely thing. And I connected Dan Fuller, who's our UK boots on the ground in the US, connected him last night. So it's pretty helpful. BDO contacts, again, I think one advantage you guys do have is the BDO Wisconsin offices are really engaged in the Alliance program. And so I think getting to know Dan Kramer, Bill Polino, I think at the Alliance conference, I think Bill Polino had breakfast with us one day with a number of your leaders and stuff. So I think that's an advantage. I wouldn't look at that as BDO's like competing in the market with you. I would just change your mindset. Like, they should only be kind of helpful to you. I mean, maybe once in a while there's a client that they want, you know, it can happen for sure, but I think there's way more upside with having active offices there, you know, both in Madison and Milwaukee. Groups roundtables, we'll talk more about that, but we have like 40 roundtable groups. And I mean, I don't think MBA wants to be in 40 of the 40 roundtables, but probably like 25, kind of a big number. And I think it's just trying out. All it is it's not like, you know, you're going to commit to a call maybe for 1 hour once a month or every other month or maybe quarterly. They're all a little bit different. I'll lays that out. But to be able to sit on a call for an hour and learn from others. Now, Kathy Saunders, who leads those roundtables generally, she does kind of push you to share your camera because she wants them to be interactive. She doesn't want people, she just wants to make sure they're discussion type things. So, I mean, she can't make you turn your camera on, but she'll just, you know, push you to do that. Tools and publications, I mean, opportunities, lots of subject matter experts. I know when we were an Alliance firm, you know, we were close to 100 people. I think we had a pretty solid tax department with a couple of attorneys and a number of masters in tax and stuff. But we'd have a project like an R&D project. You know, we knew the rules or cost seg about allocating things, but you know, with like cost seg, we had like a dozen projects right out of the gate where we used BDO because they've got like engineers that can go in and figure out how much to allocate based on life sockets and things like that. We didn't have that kind of ability. And so again, I just think to try using like Mark Siddell, the cost seg on projects and stuff. And some firms in the Alliance program are very strong at those kind of places. So you kind of have to pick and choose of what you want to leverage at BDO. On this slide, international tax is a big area I kind of talked about. State and local tax, we have an annual conference that's, I think it was just earlier this month, Andy Gibson runs. There's probably like 60 Alliance firms that go down to, it's usually in Texas. But they have a regular roundtable for SALT, state and local tax, comp and benefits. Again, lots of expertise at BDO that hopefully just adds depth to your firms. And I think sometimes in like that R&D example, we kind of used it as a way, well, if we bring a BDO to do it this year, then next year we can maybe do more because we've learned from what they've done and we don't necessarily need them in year 2 or 3 or whatever. So accounting methods is a huge area at BDO in terms of value. Sometimes making our accounting method change can be a huge deal. R&D tax credits. Transfer pricing, I talked a little bit about already, expat services, National Tax Office. When we joined BDO, one of my largest clients, it was going through a transaction, and it was a private equity thing where they bought a software company for like 30 million. It was one of my largest clients. They grew to like, and they sold it for like 140 million. And it was kind of a big transaction when you're on like these calls with, you know, there's like 3 or 4 different calls with different potential buyers. And, you know, they all will represent Big Four. They're trying to poke holes and things and stuff like that. But anyway, the structure of it, like set up this holding company, and there was payroll involved, and there was problems with IDs and different things. It was just kind of, I know you guys with your payroll entity, but with acquisitions, there was problems with the IRS. Well, we had Todd Simmons jump on. Mark, do you need anything? Or
I was going to ask you to mute your
mute?
put your computer on mute, and I'll.
I think it was perfect the other way we had it.
everything was working well. We now have Mark Ziegler and Kevin's accounts muted. So Kevin, I think if you just unmute yourself again, we'll be okay.
Mark is gonna undo his.
Oh, keep mine muted. Okay.
Muted, so. Still an echo? Yes.
So Mark unmuted. I wonder if he needs to turn like the speaker off.
I just left.
Okay.
It
guess
was
you-
working great before, just so you guys know, when Kevin's was unmuted and Mark's was muted, if you want to try that again.
Okay, I'm
Okay,
muted. I'm muted again.
Yeah.
Now I've got the echo there.
So you're not.
It was still echoing.
Still.
Yeah,
echoing.
go ahead. Just go ahead and do yours, Mark.
All right, what's going on right now is definitely bigger rooms. So I'll just go mute mine and we'll just continue on. Sorry.
So should I unmute?
Yeah, and then we'll wait till Mark mutes again.
Testing.
Not yet.
Testing. Brian says he heard it best when Kevin was unmuted. Working on it. I think we're back good. So I know this was a really compelling story I was telling before the echo, but just to close the loop on that. So my point I was trying to make was this, it was kind of a complicated deal with payroll, and it was like a holding company, and it wasn't that complicated, but they just had trouble with ID numbers of payroll. So I called up Todd Simmons, seems like he has like a direct line to the IRS, and was able to just solve it, like maybe not like instantaneously, but it was like months of frustrations at something like that. So sometimes having BDO with that, expert or connection that could go right to the IRS is helpful. So I gotta get back to my slides here. BDO assurance, again, technical, similar as tax, technical test, knowledge base, the BDO contacts. I know Dan Kramer in Wisconsin leads the Wisconsin practice for BDO. Is a great guy, very alliance oriented. I think you guys probably met him. I know Polino was at our breakfast. I don't think Dan was there. Maybe he was. Again, roundtables, there's assurance, tools and publications, a lot of things, audit manuals, forms. In each industry, I know you guys got some strong industries. We'll look at it. There's like a bucket in each industry, and there's like thought leadership stuff that that could be helpful. I mean, like if I had a big nonprofit, you might want to go to the nonprofit thing and say, hey, this might be something I can just print out. Some of the stuff you can private label is MBE. Some of it you might have to give credit to BDO, and Colleen Millay works with your marketing person, kind of figure that stuff out. But again, there's just lots of stuff there that is available. Oftentimes you might have somebody that's doing a year-end tax planning thing in November for their chamber, and rather than like creating a new PowerPoint, you call Annie Gibson, they maybe get one that maybe it's 200 pages and you only want 50, but you might have to pick and choose, but it's better than like creating your own thing generally. Advisory, again, we now have an advisory technical desk. When I say technical desk, not so much technical questions, but it's almost more of a connector to the key, like 25 categories of BDO advisory people. That's relatively new. But we think with the growth of advisory in our CPA firms and BDO, that like 5 years from now, it's going to be much more, it's a way to connect with BDO. There's annual conference advisory tracks, like at the Alliance conference. I know a number of you joined, Tim and others at our conference last year, but there's like 9 different tracks, not just assurance tax advisory, but HR, marketing, different tracks. Tools and publications, there's, risk assessment tools, things like that, opportunities in terms of consulting, second opinions. This slide talks a little bit about, I know we had a firm in South Dakota that we loved. I mean, it was probably a $10 million firm, and they got acquired by Brady Martz probably 2 years ago now. the reason we liked them a lot, really liked them a lot, was they were just inclined to like try to leverage BDO. I mean, you know, and I think that mindset is the right mindset. And I'm biased probably, you know, but I just think that if you're a firm and you want, hey, where are we going to be in 3 to 5 years, 10 years, the more you can get your people to draw on BDO, I think you're going to be better off. And so they had a couple different projects where they had like their top client was going through some restructuring type stuff or going through some problems. They brought in a BDO expert and kind of worked together. Now BDO probably did 85% of the project, but they wouldn't have been able to do it at all. And so it's just leveraging some of these advisory things. There's some talent that you can leverage in these advisory areas. BDO Digital is really part of advisory, but a lot going on with, they have this digital group with bots and different things, like on our practice innovation roundtable that I help lead. Oftentimes they're a part of that, just sharing stuff, and they've got ability like to work with alliance firms to like go to market together and even like work out the economics. I don't know that there's tons of examples of that, but I think BDO is really looking at our alliance program as going, some of our firms are very innovative. So we don't have all the answers at BDO. So they're very much interested if BDO they have an idea to figure out, hey, maybe we can work together to drive this in the marketplace. And so there are some advantages with BDO Digital where, you know, bots or different things to work together. This is BDO Digital Labs is kind of, I know at sometimes on Sunday at the Alliance Conference, they have a session for BDO Labs. This is the help desk, kind of a one-page flyer. I've got some hard copies I'll leave at the second meeting. But again, it's just about 25 different categories of advisory services that, you know, there's leaders in each of them. So if you have something, that area, you could maybe chat about that with that person. Steph?
So these are kind of the main categories that we have in the Business Resource Network that are solutions for your clients. So these would not be, like they will work with other competitors, not vendors for NBD. I've already touched on some of these, but you know, we have some very niche boutique services within the BRN too. So I think maybe it's on the next slide. I'm getting a little ahead of myself, but you know, we have some that will do green energy tax credits. We've got one called Aviation CPAs that just does tax work related to aircraft. So you have clients that have aircraft and maybe don't do those every day. It may be better to work with a firm who does, because they know all the ins and outs of that, and perhaps they could help with that part of the tax regime. We've got actuaries in the program, if we ever have a need for that. As I mentioned, foreign exchange. We also have some firms that will help companies set up operations in other countries. Some, you know, maybe you have a client here, but they have an employee in Ireland or Argentina or somewhere, and they need help with the payroll and HR laws in Argentina. All firms that help with that as well. And so we also have a lot of technology providers, which was, I know, something that was mentioned, not something that NBD has services for in-house for clients. So we have clients that really, you know, need better cybersecurity. Maybe we can better systems, hardware. We have the RNs that can help with that as well. And so another VRN slide. No.
Good. I mentioned this earlier on the BDO portal demo. There's under groups, there's industry groups. There's probably like 20, I don't know if there's 20 on this slide, but there's about 20 different buckets. So again, I just think on each of those tiles, when you click on them, it'll explain who the BDO, a couple leaders are. There's usually somebody on our team that's a liaison that might be helpful to connect you. But I think in each of the industries that you might lead, it's just good to look at that bucket to see the thought leadership and stuff that might be available that you could just print out and bring to a client, or maybe, you know, like nonprofit. I think there's a number of alliance firms that use stuff like newsletter stuff, so they can send out regular stuff to the nonprofit rather than rewriting their own nonprofit newsletter. They can just pull it off of BDO and private label it. So again, lots of different industry groups. 4 key resources area like staff development. Again, there's this level training. The one thing on that, the last probably 3 years, we've used Surgent. And there is a cost there, it's discounted, but it's been pretty popular because I think, and BDO still has level training for tax assurance, but I think the feedback was that the BDO stuff wasn't good. It just wasn't as applicable as like the Surgent stuff. So there are, again, probably 90%, 80% of the stuff is free, but that's kind of the extent that's one that's pretty popular that isn't free. There's a lot of live webcasts, self-study courses, technical updates. There's kind of a rhythm like in the fall of a few new things that have been pretty impactful that I would suggest that MB would want to definitely take advantage of. Like the last 3 years, we had this CAS summit that's like 20 credits of CP over 3 days, and we had like 1,700 people participants. There's not probably as much technical training on CAS, client accounting services, as there is like tax and assurance. So that has really been popular, like the CAS summit. We had an AI summit in December. That was the first ever one. That was like 2 days. That might have been 16 credits that I'm sure will be reoccurring every year. And I think that was really popular. I don't know if it was over 1,000, but a lot of people participating in that. So there's kind of, and I think later on we'll show a calendar. There's a regular rhythm of like January, February, throughout the year, the calendar where there might be 6 or 8 different things that happen every year. So you kind of get in a rhythm being new of knowing, hey, I'm involved in manufacturing or nonprofit. There's this conference every June, and so I think it's worth checking out those things. So a lot of learning resources. There's like milestone training. There's a lot of things that aren't just technical, but they're like the same thing BDO uses to develop their people. So I would definitely suggest. And so some of the ways in terms of onboarding, we kind of have a 2-pronged approach the last few years. Kathy Saunders has been running calls, I think, with your leaders, and she's running most of them where there's probably like 10 different calls where it's like connecting your training people with BDO's training leader on our Alliance team. And so the training or onboarding is really kind of twofold, where we're trying to train the leaders at MBE, kind of independently. And then Steph and I are kind of spending a few hours here trying to go through an overview thing, and we'll kind of have some action steps. And after our second meeting, I'll be sending out a recap in terms of things, kind of to-do items, but lots of opportunities. So this is like I think it mentions facility by Surgent, these level trainings that are pretty popular. I mean, like, they'll have like 250 people on each session that are taking this, and it might be $150 for something that was 200 at market rate. So there's a discount, but there's a cost. Similarly on the tax side, Surgent, those usually occur like in October, November, December type timeframe. So this is the slide I was mentioning about the annual training events timeline. So the SALT conference, that state and local tax things in Dallas, usually every January, nonprofit updates. So there's, and again, I think I sent these slides to Holly and she can share them. But quite a bit, like from a tax perspective, the last few years, we've had this quarterly in March BDO Tax Strategist webinar series. So you can see it in March and June and September. So if you're a tax person, probably a worthwhile hour to, Andy Gibson, our tax leader, facilitates it. I haven't sat in a ton of them, to be honest, but I think it's a pretty good call. So I think just getting into figuring out what you do and the rhythm of what things here, that would be worthwhile. And so it's just a great way. I don't know, when I was managing partner back in the olden days, it was kind of like you really encourage all your people, the more you can improve your billing rate and, get smarter, the better off you are personally and as for the firm. And so I just think it's an opportunity. You got this whole, and you guys probably had great training as MBE or through your prior association, but, I think there's even I think with COVID, everything BDO does is pretty much all remote. So it's all there. So there's more CP available than there was like 5 years ago. So again, the second half of the year, I mentioned, the CAS summit in November. I guess this doesn't show the AI summit. We should get that on the December one. That was our first ever one. But professional skills webinar series is a big deal. Like for tax, I know Andy Gibson, since he's been on our team, because he was the head of national tax for BDO, he's very connected. So he started this transaction advisory series that I said in the first call, and whoever was leading it, there was a couple of BDO people that were, talented people, but they pull up a slide deck and start going through quality of earnings, this and that. I thought, wow, and I kind of thought, well, this is just going to be kind of a standard little presentation. Well, they got into the details of really what the difference makers were. I mean, I was kind of impressed by it. I just thought it was going to be kind of a mundane boilerplate. overview, but they got into a lot of stuff. So there's quite a bit of stuff here in terms of, you know, the on the tax side, especially I think with Andy's that started out with this past year. In terms of growth, marketing growth resources, there's like a marketing toolkit. So again, Colleen Millay and Jessica on our team, I'm sure if they haven't met, are meeting with your marketing leaders at MBE, kind of so they're aware of that toolkit and what to take advantage of. You know, things like leveraging newsletters for MBE that might make sense, that kind of stuff. They you know, sometimes we'll go on the portal, firms like link their portal firm profile to their website. I mean, you guys have so much going on here with the other 11 other related firms that some firms might have like a separate like tile in marketplace for those firms. So they kind of works as a connection point from MBE to the other BRN firms you have. Again, groups, roundtables, tools, publications, just a lot of opportunities. Yes.
Can you just quickly, yesterday in BRN stuff with, so everyone can understand the difference between a group and a roundtable?
Yeah.
Steph did a really good job with it
Yeah.
yesterday.
Yeah.
And for everyone on this call to understand what a group really is.
Okay. Well, the risk of me doing a D job versus Steph's job, I'll start and then she can jump on after and pile on. But from my view, that question, if I was going to answer it, if Steph wasn't here to critique me, would be like, when we go into the portal demo, there's like a 10-step process you go through to, and the first 4 questions are, hey, where you went to school, are you a partner? And it kind of matters because if you're a partner, you get different content than if you're a staff person. So first 4 questions are kind of firm background stuff. So if you get promoted from a senior to a manager, the system doesn't know that, so you need to go and change that. But then 5, 6, and 7 are like an algorithm that helps create your experience. But then 8, 9, and 10 are things you join, like groups and things like that. And that impacts when you get a Monday and Thursday email, what stuff comes to you in your email. Now, I was at one in Chicago, a good sized firm, and he had done his thing. And he said, Kevin, I got an email that was like 40 pages long because he joined everything. So I don't think you want to join everything in terms of the groups, but I think you want to join things that matter. You can always unjoin them, but so it kind of sets up the group. So joining a group is a really low level of commitment. It's really just getting stuff sent to you. Now, when you join a roundtable, that's a higher level commitment because you're on a list. And like if you join the HR group, if somebody sends out an HR question, you'll see all that question. There's a lot of value seeing that flow of information from questions and stuff. And you're on a call, that's an hour versus a group. There's really not any cost of time. And I think, you know, I think the groups are flourishing, but we're constantly looking at the groups and trying to make them better, like having a side call, like this group's, you know, I'm running one, you know, I want to publicly, but like insurance, it's not a real big group because we lost a couple people and whatever. So roundtable is a little bit more commitment. Now, if you really want to make a bigger commitment a roundtable, like Steph and I went out to, Steph's very involved in the ag group. We met with Adams Brown, which is like a $60 million firm in Kansas with like 10 offices in Kansas. They do a ton of agriculture. So Bill Glasner was sitting in the right side room, you know, kind of a senior partner, probably 60 years old guy, and maybe he's 55, I shouldn't say 60, but, you know, a very experienced partner, very knowledgeable in ag. And we kind of talked about on table and said, you know, you don't need to do this, but so Bill is kind of like on the steering committee, and I don't know, but he's, whenever there was just a question yesterday that got funneled to Bill Glasner. So you can choose, like, if you're really into something, like if you're a dealership expert, maybe you want to not only join the group, but you want to be on the steering committee for the group. And that takes more time. But to me, there's a lot of benefits potentially that you can get a lot more work being on the steering committee. You help set the agenda, maybe you can present and things like that. So Steph, I don't know if you want to.
So the way I think about the difference between groups and roundtables is the terminology we use on the portal a little misleading. It says join group on all the buttons. You're really following the content. So, you know, now when you are on LinkedIn or Twitter, you're following things, and it's just presenting yourself to them. It's not a whole group that you join and participate in calls. So all of the groups that we listed, you know, if you join those, like Kevin said, that content is just going to pull them to your Monday emails. It's the actual roundtables. If you want to participate in discussion with other alliance firms, get the email threads where people are asking questions. How do you connect these two systems? We had a client that had this situation, how did you handle it? Those are our roundtables. So think of roundtables as our participatory groups. Yeah.
So this slide again, Michael Horowitz, my boss, very much like we need to do read our books a couple times a year, and so we're very much kind of have what I would say a growth mindset, so sometimes like in Wisconsin is a good example. I mean, you've got like 5 different alliance firms, CPA firms in Wisconsin, and you could take a perspective of, what, this is more competition. This diminishes our value of the alliance program if we were the only BDO alliance firm, and I get that. However, I think there's more benefits potentially if you have the right mindset. So I think in terms of collaborating, I found the last couple of years, we only had one firm in Wisconsin, like maybe 2.5 years, KMA, Jason, Kate, Cadeau. Now we have, I think you guys are the 5th one, in good sized firms, Kerber Rose, Vracus, SVA, you guys. But it seems like all those firms are kind of very much collaborating, and I think you go to these area meetings like when we were in Minneapolis, we were the 2nd alliance firm, and I don't think the first firm really wanted us to join, but we got to know them. I mean, they couldn't block us off, but we joined, and then we ended up actually merging with them in 2009 because you started going, I'm not saying you're going to merge with any of those firms, but you get to know people, you get to share business with each other. I mean, my biggest referral source was the old Bergen KDV. It was KDV before it became Bergen KDV. Lauren Veery, we go to lunch like once every 6 months, and he would send us $160,000. I think they were conflicted out or something. So I think it's just having the attitude of you can, come. I think if you go to these area meetings, you sit down, have a drink or have a beer or whatever at these area meetings, you get to know people. And I know my experience as a managing partner, when I went to Chicago, sometimes I would, we ended up becoming a $10 million firm. And at that time, we were kind of like the biggest firm in the Midwest group, which seems kind of small now. But, I'd help with the tax stuff. And I picked up like 3 different referrals, like a firm you guys know well, HBE out of Nebraska. I got to know Scott Becker pretty well. Well, they didn't do public companies. So they said, hey, you want this one? I was a tax person, so I didn't have to do any work. So I said, sure, we want it. You give it to our insurance partner. And it'd be a nice referral. I mean, it wasn't, I think they went out of business after like 3 years or something. But so I think there's just a lot of opportunity, and you guys know that from all your BRNs. I just think if you show up, like I get it that, you probably don't want to go to necessarily a bunch of people go to Chicago twice a year for an area meeting. But I think if you can get in a rhythm of having a few of your people there, and consistency is better than having different people all the time. Like, Dirk was at meetings and stuff. So if you can get to know the people a little bit, I just think there's a ton of opportunity, not just from BDO, but all these other alliance firms. So I think that's a big part of the network. Tips for success: treat member firms as you would BDO, over communicate, work together, make the service stronger, clarify all details up front. This slide, as I mentioned, BDO discounts are rate by 35%. The rates are pretty high. Alliance rates are discounted by 20%. If BDO calls you a big project, I don't think you have to agree to it. You could negotiate that. So, that's what the agreement, kind of a rule of thumb type of a thing. Log referrals in the portal. I think it is important to do that. We'll kind of walk, it's pretty easy, but BDO really looks at where referrals are coming from. And I think it helps to kind of build, like if I talk to Dan Kramer, well, geez, if these referrals come in for costs, I come from MB, can't we refer something back to them a little, and not that we have those conversations all the time, but I think it's kind of good to get credit for referring stuff to BDO, because BDO leadership looks at that stuff and is looking to maybe be a little bit more attuned to referring stuff back. Notify the alliance for leadership changes, new offices, locations, mergers. It's a little bit of a hassle, but like if you do, if we see an accounting date, a merger, you're really supposed to let us know. And we don't want to like do due diligence and be in a position where we're like blocking something, but we have to make sure that, and there's certain processes with like background checks and things like that. If you're partners of firms you acquire, whatever, that we have to, if they're outside the alliance, we just have to make sure we're in compliance with our BDO stuff and protecting everybody. So there's kind of a notification requirement there. 4 key resource areas. I think we're kind of wrapping up here in terms of operations. training and education groups around. It seems like I've been through this slide already to a degree, but 20 minutes. This slide shows our 40 or so roundtables. The red ones are the relatively new ones, last month or two. Again, I just think there's a ton of value here. Like if I'm going to other meetings with my other 200, I don't have 206 firms, but other 54 firms I work with, we really talk a lot about these roundtables and trying to encourage them to, if you're in 20, I mean, a lot of big firms, they might have, 80 people in like 25 different roundtables. So you don't have to just have one person as like tax practice leaders. I would think you might want to have maybe 3 or 4 people, that not just one, because it's a bigger group. So I would just, I would say more manager, senior manager on up, probably not like staff people to join roundtables. I mean, I'm not saying they can't, but generally speaking, I would say it's more like a senior manager level person. And I would just think if you're a senior manager and up, you should at least join one to try it out, maybe 2, just and see how it goes. You can always quit and unjoin, but I just think to spend an hour once a month or every other month, it's not a big time commitment. It's a great learning tool.
The roundtable is actually unique.
Virtually, yes, virtual calls.
Virtual call.
Yeah. Some meet monthly, some meet quarterly, and it just kind of depends. The Alliance contact on the ag and campus roundtables, and both of those meet. Actually, we just see how the campus back because it wasn't enough changing quarterly to warrant having quarterly calls. So ag meets quarterly, and then all of the roundtables also come with discussion groups. So that's another benefit. If you aren't able to make it to some other calls, you still are able to see those emails that are coming through or ask your own questions. And some of them will try to get together in person for anyone who's at the Vegas conference. We'll have maybe tables at breakfast or lunch that'll be a manufacturing table, just to kind of pull everybody together so you can be in person.
So this slide kind of groups it better in terms of service line roundtables and industry roundtables, internal roles / interest roundtables. So 3 different kind of buckets of the 40. This slide is
3 roundtables, depending on how much time you want to invest in it, because if you're in the tax practice leader, but you really do a lot of work in the manufacturing industries, you make manufacturing roundtable as well.
The one that's probably the biggest commitment would be managing partner, just because typically they might meet 3 times a year, maybe twice in person. Yeah, they're all different. There's like probably, I don't know, there's like maybe 15 of them, maybe. Yeah, probably 80% of our managed partners are in one. I know, Tim's in a separate group because I know HB was in the same group as he was, and Scott now is in one. I mean, from our perspective, again, we would recommend Tim join one. I know it's a time commitment, but when we joined back in 2006, I thought that was the most valuable thing because you got to know about 10, 12 similar size firms around the country. And like when you went to Alliance conference, you always got together there. I mean, you really got connected. So that's the biggest commitment one out of these. Most of these other ones are probably at most a monthly call. Steph?
Yeah, I'll just touch on this quickly. So we of course also have services for your firm. Within the VRM program, we have a lot of growth consulting, so Boomer, Convergence, those industry luminaries that you've heard of before and have probably crossed paths with. We have a lot of technology coming into the program because of all of the new AI, LLM technology. A lot of those are starting to enter the accounting industry, and some of them have been around for a while, but are now, adding AI technology to their platform. So some newer ones would be BlueJ, which is basically like a chat GPT that has all of the tax spreads behind it. So you can go in and do some research and put in a question, and then it searches through all of the tax regulations instead of searching the internet, because it's got all of that compartmentalized. Tax Plan IQ will help with tax positions. And so there's a lot of new tools for firms to use.
Cost savings.
Yep, so we encourage the BRN to provide kind of friends and family discount for BDO firms. So anytime you're working with a BRN firm, I just encourage you to ask if they provide a discount to BDO firms. Some of them will do it only through new customers. So like Thomson Reuters, maybe you won't get the discount there if you're already using them. But some of them will provide, you know, maybe a first month free or that sort of thing. So definitely ask. And then we've got the Microsoft licensing. Some of our contracts that BDO has, we are able to leverage that pricing for our alliance firms. So we've got a great program through a BRN called Crayon, which basically gets you Microsoft licensing at the cost of what BDO is. So I don't know if your technology team has explored that yet. So that's definitely something that I would consider. I mean, we have some firms, bigger firms, and yours is, you know, big enough that it could see some good savings, but I think we, well, the firm has about 800 people and they were saving more like 200 grand a year.
Over 500.
500, so definitely significant savings, and it also gives you additional capability and security behind the licenses that perhaps your licenses have. You know, there's also some for your employees, Verizon discounts, Flowers, 100 Flowers, their video client, and just some other fun discounts that you can see. And you can see all of these on the marketplace. I do remind people those are all put there by the BRN. So sometimes they forget to put their discounts out there, or so it's not a comprehensive list, but you can always ask.
So connecting with BDO, again, the Alliance portal is we'll take a quick look at that. Help desk, Rhonda Lusk on our team does a really good job of following up with various global advisory help desk, tax assurance. Alliance team, again, Andy Gibson's our tax leader, does a great job connecting. Corey's our education training leader. Mike Mitchell, digital assets. Colleen Malay's the marketing. Kathy Saunders helps run the roundtables and surveys, and Joyce Arthur runs our area meetings. Steph and I are kind of your main connections on our Alliance team. We've got about 30 people on our team, so you know, it's kind of important for your market people to leverage all, you know, the marketing people on the team too. You know, basically tapping the power of the Alliance. There's local connections in the office to get to know we have a strategy we used to call BDO champions, but a market liaisons. And so I'll probably try to get like Bill Kramer, Bill Polino, those kind of people at the partner level, because I'm not boots on the ground in the Wisconsin offices to know what's going on necessarily in the Wisconsin office of BDO. So you kind of want to build up those connections over time. The networking at area meetings and the conferences. You know, there's things like if you ever want to use the BDO offices, you can call ahead and, you know, use conference rooms and things like that. These slides, you know, Karen Baum is leader of our ESG, Gabe Rubio's business incentives, Dan Lascelles is our assurance leader, Kirsty Turnham is our digital leader. So getting started, I think the first thing is setting up your portal profile, identifying ways resource can help you and your clients, set goals related Alliance interaction, be proactive. Again, we'll kind of walk through this 10-step thing where it talks about your job level and things like that. So it probably takes like maybe half hour-ish. I mean, if you're a partner, it might take a little bit more than that to go through that because there's more questions. If you're less experienced, maybe it's 20 minutes, but I'll definitely try to say we want everybody to be on the portal like the next week or 10 days before it gets crazy busy and stuff, just to get on it. You check your junk folder to make sure you're getting emails. Ways to use your membership, get to know the Alliance team, download tools, call in specialists, utilize video training, seek insights, assist them with firm initiatives. Sometimes we'll have a firm like in upstate New York that hasn't moved in 50 years and they're moving. We connect them for an hour call with the BDO office relocation person to have a call, and because BDO is kind of moving is through other offices, and you know, so sometimes there's talent or there's something on receivables. We want to talk to the BDO CFO. You know, BDO is pretty good at like setting up a call and talking. So you just need to kind of ask, be proactive. I guess there's a lot on the slide, but you know, you all have the slides, but there's a lot of different ideas in terms of designating firm champions and things like that internally, building mutual relationship, joining groups. The portal tour, I was going to do that shortly here. So let me just see if I can minimize that.
So did we determine yesterday that the proper MBE that we use in CPA?
We've added also on these CPA. So that's really both should work.
And then we lost the feed. They're still in the WebEx.
I lost the feed.
Yeah, I'm just gonna try unplugging the.
There it is. All right, hopefully people can see the portal. So again, it's alliance.bdo.com. You should be able to get in there with your email, and we had a little issues with some different emails, but so I guess the first thing, if you hover over like your picture and go into my profile and then edit profile, that gets you this kind of 10-step process that I had mentioned. I'm not going to click through the steps, but again, the first 4 steps are kind of your firm experience and stuff, your title, those kind of things. And 5, 6, and 7, it's pretty powerful. There's over 25,000 people on the portal. And it's the same way BDO finds people as our Alliance people, and stuff in different industries. So you can, when you get questioned, you basically, if you're over 10 years experience in something, that's kind of like the highest score. So if you're more than 10, that's the highest score. And then the percentage of your time, like if you are on auto dealers and you spend 80% of your time on auto dealers, and you have over 10 years experience, you're going to be like on top of that algorithm when somebody search for help on auto dealers. And so it's important to do a good job. And so when we look at MBE, we'll kind of want to see, 200 people that have done their thing. And so you can see how many people, so if somebody's looking for auto dealers, they can see, well, geez, we have 18 people that work in dealerships because, well, this firm could really help us. And we've got an opportunity in Wisconsin. So that's pretty popular. And then 8, 9, and 10, we chat on this a little bit. That's really just joining groups and stuff that really creates the content that comes out to you. So I want to first just go into the Alliance program, the events calendar, and this takes a little bit of time to pull up. But the events calendar will kind of show what's going on. Is it thinking? I can't tell. Oh, I see it. It's thinking. Okay. So a calendar will pop up eventually, and it will show really on a daily basis what's going on. So I like to first go to the list view. I think it's a little easier to see what's going on. And so by clicking on these things, you can join things, CP training, those kind of things. Now, again, the training stuff should also be coming to you on your Monday and Thursday emails where you can click on versus going here. But here you can kind of see, so quite a bit of stuff going on. Now, if you missed something, like, for example, I mentioned the CAS Summit in November. You can go back to November and you should be able to find the CAS Summit, and all that materials will be there. Now, you can't necessarily get CPE because it's not a live event unless you self-administer it, but all the 3 days of training would be on that. So I think this, again, under this events calendar list view, you can kind of toggle back or toggle forward, or I don't know how much is in February. I mean, stuff will be getting added, but it's kind of a good way to see a global view of what's going on. So that I think is important. I wanted to just show you on that same Alliance program under the groups category. We talked quite a bit about the industry groups here. So these are these different buckets. So again, if we look at, a group like nonprofit, it's pretty consistent in terms of these buckets. They usually say, I mean, I'm not sure if every time, but they usually have down to the bottom here who the group leader is: Adam Cole out of our BDO New York office, Lori Diamond, and then Jim Hayden's on my team. So there's those kind of the connecting points. If you have questions, they could probably help you. And then there's like thought leadership. So again, if you got a big meeting with a big nonprofit, maybe you want to just look at these articles, or maybe there's a way, you want to say, it'd be nice to have like a quarterly nonprofit newsletter that goes out, and just, we can maybe private label and stuff. So there's some things there under the groups, the industry tab, that I think if you're leading an industry for MBE, I think you should be familiar with what's here. You don't have to use any of it if you don't want to, but I think it might be helpful. So I'm going to just go on the far right here to roundtables. So under the roundtables, when it pops up, if you click on roundtables, like I'm kind of in every roundtable, I think, kind of by default. So, but most people wouldn't have all the roundtables. So if you click on roundtable information, this will show first the new ones on top, like quality management standards. Now, that's brand new, I think, because of a lot of input that they wanted. It's more assurance type stuff, kind of the QA technical resource thing. So again, it looks like it's every other month. There's probably a steering committee that you probably could join if you really wanted to. But I would suggest if you're a senior manager and up, you'd maybe try to join one of these roundtables. Again, you click on it, you join it, you're part of this email stream. It says the frequency of the meetings. If you join the group, you can see everybody that's in it, the name of the firms. You get to know who are the people that work in this space. BRN Champion's a fairly new one. I think that's important because I think Steph probably sits in on all those. But to me, that's where, especially because you guys have 5 BRNs, I think the intent is that CPA leaders that maybe like if Tim was your BRN champion, you'll get to hear other firms talk about other BRNs, could be feedback about your 5, which might be helpful to know. But hey, there's 160 of these. How do you figure out which ones can really help MBE? So, and you guys have a little different angle because you have 5. So you might want to kind of know what's going on there. So I think that's kind of an important one. Executive Women is a new one. I think they probably had 2 or 3 meetings. I think Steph was probably in on one on those, but I think that's a good group. I think from an MB firm perspective, I mean, maybe Tim or somebody might want to look globally at all the roundtables and say, maybe people join. And I mean, I don't think you want to have 18 people in a roundtable type thing. I mean, I think they're good, but I don't think maybe they're that good. That's maybe not the right way to say it. But I think strategically as a firm, assurance, it probably makes sense to have maybe 3 or 4 people, and maybe somebody can't make it every month. I think it's a good way, almost like a succession plan, where if you're a partner in charge of something, hey, let's bring along my senior manager, learn, and maybe, hey, task that person with sitting in and letting know what's coming out of this thing or whatever. So again, there's a laundry list there of 40 or so. So again, under the Alliance program groups, we looked at the industries, we looked at the roundtables, and there's these practice areas where I think this is where, like when you went to that 10-step thing, I must have checked advisory, Affordable Care Act. So I joined those. I can easily toggle on that and unjoin that because this is, I think, my profile here. Regional areas, I think this is important. Again, I feel like a firm your size needs to get regularly involved, probably in the Midwest region. I think it's one thing to attend or try to get there. But in addition, if you missed a meeting or whatever, you can toggle down here and so this stuff this is still a registration mode from our meeting. I know Tim and Dirk were at that meeting. But the stuff from that meeting should all be posted here. I don't know if it is or not. It should be like by now. So again, that's under the groups.
One thing we have too, for folks in other offices can also them, so.
Yeah.
Offices, but then
Right. Good point. And I would even add on to that. We have some of our larger firms that I think strategically want to get in other markets and with all your offerings. So you might find out, hey, there's a great meeting in Lansing, Michigan, or upstate New York. And maybe somebody like, I'll pitch upstate New York because that's mine. We need more people to go to upstate New York because it's a smaller group. We only have 6 firms, but we have a firm, William Vaughn, that's probably 25 million that they go to the ones up there because they figure out we'd like to get connected with these firms because we do some stuff they don't do. Like I had an agenda. This was like when I first got about 5 years ago, and we decided to have a salt topic, and turned out the 3 sizable firms in upstate New York, all their salt guys were tied up, or people were tied up and they couldn't come. So I called GBQ and they flew up their leader of salt. And I think he got a lot of business, just to run a panel. And so there could be opportunities, one, to be in a market you're not in, or be in a market because it's convenient because there's one in Arizona and you've got an office there too. I guess on this thing, I'll also just show the discounts. Steph talked about these. Again, there's a tile for, that's there. You can, filter by categories. So looking for discounts in a certain area, like different areas and stuff. And so, okay. So if we go to the help desk, tax technical desk, tax and insurance are real similar. Tax has more categories, is it thinking? So it's pretty straightforward. If you go into the tax help desk and you end up looking at the tax area, and tax is a little bit more, there's like 80 categories. If you pick the category executive compensation, it'll kind of explain what's in there. That might be helpful. And then you put in your question, you can upload a file. There are some questions here. Pre-approval of bill, you might want to say, I'd like to understand the time involved prior to incurring in billable time. So again, what happens is, partnerships might have a dozen responders for this category. Somebody picks the question, responds. At BDO, if you don't record your time by 10 o'clock every day, your laptop doesn't work. So everybody on those calls, they have to record their time. So if it's less than 20 minutes, they record their 20 minutes, but let's just say it was 20, they put a half hour or something. Courtney's going to bill it in Minneapolis. They don't actually bill your time. It goes to Courtney, and if it's under 20 minutes, she writes it off. If it's over 20 minutes, she gets billed less than 35% discount. So sometimes there can be a disconnect. So if you ever get billed something that you don't think is correct, because maybe somebody didn't write, hey, do not bill this by the half hour because it's BD, Courtney doesn't know it. She just bills it, at that. So it's a really good system, I think. I think you can expect within 48 hours, you'll get somebody come back. I mean, I would say high percentage is that same day or within 24 hours. So there's also maybe on the this assurance desk is a little bit more detailed questions where they want to kind of know. So they're a little different. Less categories and things, but you just kind of load up your question. They want to know really what you've done, what previously discussed questions and things. So if you have any questions on that kind of stuff, we can follow up with. I want to maybe just show you a couple things. How we doing? We're past. Okay. Okay. So we'll pop over to the learning tab. We have this course catalog. So again, I think this content can come out to you, but if like you're a tax person and you want to maybe try BDO first and your basic tax stuff and you need to hit submit, this catalog pulls from all different things. And so, BDO stuff should generally be free. So this might be the best way to start with BDO. So this catalog is pretty good at finding stuff. You can click on it and join stuff. So that's under the Learn tab. There's also things under, like with Kathy started to be going through your training person, but there's this career development toolkit. There's portal tutorials that are helpful. I want to maybe just show you under the search thing. If we search firms, if we look at MBE, I think when I looked at it, I think you guys had, 50 people that were maybe on the portal already, which is good, but we really like to have all 200 people on the portal profile. So this shows all your offices, the people that are signed up. If I look at your experience, it'll show which people are involved in collectively in these areas. Now, once everybody completes their profile, I think you guys are going to look like you're going to, rather than have 3 or 4 people, you're going to have probably 18 people in these areas. So again, I think you want straight the numbers. Your experience is based on that 10 years experience type thing to get a rating. So this algorithm. So again, one of the goals would be to get everybody to do this probably the next week or so, if possible. If we look at the people, you might want to consider, some people don't want their picture up there, whatever, but to me, like Tim, to me, did a great job. He's got his picture, he's got direct dial, and click on this, I can connect with Tim. So that would be my A+. Now some people may not want their picture, maybe they don't want their direct dial. I mean, that's your decision, but I just think you're easier to work for, TIFF. I just think like it's great to do that. Now we have a firm in Chicago that they have a full-time high-level marketing person. The firm is probably a $40 million firm, Orba, downtown Chicago. She's all over this stuff. I mean, she loves the So when I look at what I like about theirs, I typically showcase it like what I like about it is they've got a 40 million firm, but they've like connected their website to the portal. So when I need to find, not that I'm looking for somebody all the time, but if I want to find somebody in litigation support services for Orba, like I don't think they spent their marketing person kind of connect with our and they figure out how to do this. I don't think they kind of just reuse their website stuff. And so if I'm looking for somebody, they've got like pictures and contacts of who their people are that do that. So when you figure there's 25,000 users across the country, I think it's a great way to kind of get people connected to your things. So that's why I wanted to just kind of show Orba there, because a lot of firms have copied what they've done, bigger firms. So again, I know we're a little bit past, so apologize for that. So if I want to search for people, you know, and you can either search by experience or browse by experience. They're kind of the same. I'm just used to browsing by experience. And so if I go there and I pick an industry, so I pick an industry, let's just say I'm auto dealerships or something. So I want to go into auto dealerships. And, you know, these are the top people at auto dealerships. You can see they're, you know, Scott Woodward's a brand new firm that all they do is auto dealerships. So I may want to, sometimes if I click on NAICS experience, sometimes I can drill down further. So I want to deal with new car dealerships. So then it cuts that search down. Megan Congdon's our BDO leader of dealerships, but then I might say, you know what, I want to focus on my region. So I want to do in the Midwest region. So it pulls it down. So Woodward is a new firm we just onboarded. That's all they do, like 90%. So again, it's a great way for people to find you. So having all your people do a really good job on their thing that you can pick up business you wouldn't otherwise pick up. So I think that's pretty powerful. Anything else, Steph? Well, resources. So again, here, you know, under, you know, assurance knowledge base. So again, this is searchable, but this is stuff that BDO is just like kicking out every, you know, January 16th stuff that is coming out. That's new stuff they're doing. That's kind of available as like a library and you can search for it. But if you need something, and you can't find it, you might want to start here. You can maybe ask some of your team like Jim Hayden, who is an audit partner that could help. Hey, no, I know how you get that stuff. Or Dan Lasella. So it's not perfect, but it just comes out like it gets feeding. Same thing on the tax side. So that's kind of good. Or you can search for content here.
Yeah, so the difference between the knowledge base and the content area, the knowledge base is basically everything that's being pulled over from BDO's databases. It's like an automatic pull every night. This content area is stuff that the Alliance program and our firm have put into the portal. Right. So Kevin's pulling up the BRN matrix.
So the BRN, when I type this in, I don't want to just hit search. I want to pick what I want. It's called a tag. So when I tag it, it's tagged. It knows there's something there. So then when I search, Steph had talked about the BRN matrix. That's like a 5-page document that, you know, it's like a short synopsis of all the BRNs. So this would be a pretty popular document. Like I have one in my briefcase because somebody calls me, I can refer to this and because I can't remember all these things like Steph can. But anyway, I guess maybe the last thing would be here. There's a drop down here under get out of this stuff. Sorry. Meetings were missing, which is good. Referrals. So if you make referral like a cost seg deal, it'd be great if you log it in here so we can track it. But you basically create a new referral, and it's pretty straightforward when it pops up. Just who you referred it to, what it was, dollar amount, stuff like that. So any questions? I apologize for going 10 minutes over here, but we really are excited to have you. Reach out to Stefan and I anytime to try to help. Really encourage everybody to get their portal profile done in the next week, and then you'll be getting these Monday and Thursday emails. And it's like anything, it's a new thing, and I know people aren't looking for things to do necessarily. You got your plates full, but if you can really allocate some effort to it, I think it'll pay off to everybody's career in the firm. So again, yes,
Question.
is there a question or? No? Okay, well, I think that's it. So I think we're gonna maybe have a short break. We've got another meeting starting up here shortly, but thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.